Hello everyone and welcome to the NARSA weekly update for the week commencing Monday the 25th of October 2021. It's Gary here and this has been a very good week for our wonderful club with two very important victories in two what could have been very tricky games for us. More about the games in a wee bit, but it is fair to say that they are coming thick and fast and we're kind of slap bang in the middle of a glut of games right now and just need to buckle down and do what's necessary to get the maximum points available from every single one of them. Back to the proverbial one game at a time that Steven Gerrard was battering on about last season. I mentioned last week that with each passing week the positives are starting to outweigh the negatives in terms of in-game performances by the team at large, with our periods of slack play being replaced with either okay play or something a wee bit better. And I think the same can be said of both games, the Brøndby and the St Mirren games, maybe apart from the first 20-25 minutes of St Mirren, which I'll get to when we get to that part. But I think you can see that whatever the coaching staff are doing with the players is working slowly but surely. And it's obviously not a quick fix to get us back to some semblance of the levels that we enjoyed last season. Anyway, I did want to start today by congratulating El Buffalo, Mr. Alfredo Morelos, on scoring his 100th goal against St Mirren yesterday. What an amazing achievement to reach that number, and I'm sure the historians out there will be more educated on how he fares against the other legendary goal scorers who have achieved the same feat. I don't know a bunch about that sort of stuff, but I kind of think it's funny because I remember when Alfredo first joined us and saying on more than one occasion to my dad, I don't really know what type and style of player this guy is, but I can tell you right now, he is not a goal scorer. That is not one of the things that he is. As I say, on more than one occasion, I was saying that he just looked like a bit of a misfit on occasion, still putting some goals in, but I didn't think he would end up being as prolific as he was, and I've obviously been proved wrong and then some, and I'm very happy to be proved wrong, of course, as well. He's one of, if not our absolute prized asset for the club, and I couldn't be happier for him to add this significant milestone to his already stellar contribution to our club. And he is, of course, a record goal scorer in European competitions as well. And here's some wee tidbits that I learned from the website earlier today. Alfie has achieved the 100 goal feat with an incredible goal average of just better than one goal in every two games, reaching the milestone in 199 matches for Rangers. 49 of his goals were on his right foot, 25 with his left. That's amazing, isn't it, how two-footed he is, and 25 with his head, and one other goal, which was the one from last season against Dundee United that came off his chest and went in. And I think if I remember correctly, that caused a bit of a furore where people were trying to say it was handball and stuff like that junk, Anyway, 51 of his strikes have been at Ibrox, 47 on the road, with a further two coming at 47, yeah, and another two. Okay, I was just looking at the mathematics there just to make sure it was right. And a further two coming at Hampden. Just brilliant when you get it all packaged up like that, isn't it? And if you look at Kemar Roof's current stats, he's very, very close to following in Alfie's footsteps as well, with 26 goals in 50 games. I love it. So well done, Alfie, and just keep doing what you're doing, because we absolutely love you. On to the game segment for this past week, and starting with the home must-win victory against Brøndby in the Europa League. We managed a pretty comfortable 2-0 victory due to first half goals from Leon Balogun and Kemar Roof. Balogun's goal came from a brilliant corner from our captain and a very captain-like Richard Gough-esque powerful header to make it 1-0 in around about 18 minutes or so, something like that. And Roof's goal looked a mile offside from every angle other than the one that truly counted, and that was our good friends in the VAR suite who demonstrated quite clearly that Roof was indeed onside before he got into a position to steer the ball into the goal. It was a great header by Alfie that was saved. I guess maybe he could have put it a wee bit further away from the goalie, but Roof was in the right place at the right time to do what he needed to do. So who says that VAR is all bad? Not me anyway. Let's just wait and see how the rest of this recap goes. But we did enjoy two pieces of history in the first half. Balogun's first goal for Rangers and our first ever VAR awarded goal as well. So that's kind of fun. And it was, other than that, it was a fairly comfortable first half with the team showing the type of poise and maturity that we've come to expect from them in Europe anyway. And we then started the second half and Borna Barisic decided it was Christmas and attempted to pass the ball back from way out of the goal area, only to play it perfectly to the Brøndby striker, who ran through and very fortunately placed it wide of the onrushing Alan McGregor. I think Alan McGregor did very well to just close down the space and force him to go wide. But oh my word, Borna, come on, man. VAR then decided to be as inconsistent as the human referees when we were then denied an absolute stonewall penalty when the absolutely magnificent Joe Aribo was upended in their box from every single angle. It was a penalty all day long. Such a bizarre decision, and one that goes to show that this VAR is nowhere near a perfect referee support system as they would have you believe. And apart from, honestly, that dodgy wee spell at the start of the second half, it was a fairly comfortable game for us, and we're now finally on the board in the Europa League with 3 points from 3 games, but only critically 1 point off of second place. So this sets us up very well for our next must-win game in the Europa League in a couple of weeks, where we can hopefully build on the momentum of the first game and get another 3 points against the same team in Denmark. We'll see how that one goes, and more about that in a couple of weeks. Our second game was a 2-1 victory in the most amazing town in Scotland against a stuffy and resolute St Mirren team who incidentally have a sectarian bigot for a chairman who has shown himself up with some disgusting tweets about his desire for Rangers fans that he constantly referred to as Huns, or consistently referred to as Huns or versions thereof, to die via a bridge collapsing and other nasty stuff like that. And then he comes out and makes an apology, and the anti-sectarian organisation back home, Nil by Mouth, says it's kind of just unfortunate and he should maybe consider making a donation to the Rangers Charity Foundation in some sort of compensation scheme for his outlandish behaviour. What about this? Why don't you shove your apology up your arse and let's start having some serious conversations about the blatant double standards that are existing in Scotland when it comes to Rangers fans and the ability to criticise us with any form of language that you like. I'd love to say that this stuff is utterly unbelievable, but it just isn't, based on what we've seen. We've seen time and time again this sort of garbage go unpunished or kind of swept away as if nothing happened, nothing to see here. I try to explain this sort of stuff to my friends and colleagues over here in Canada, and they think I'm exaggerating. They think I'm joking when I tell them this sort of stuff that we get raked over the coals for, and the other stuff that's just shuffled under the carpet with a bit of an eye roll. A day of reckoning has to be upon us soon, and idiots like the St Mirren chairman should be sacked for that sort of disgusting behaviour. I understand the SFA has opened an investigation into the incidents, and we'll see what comes out of it. My gut tells me it'll be the same as UEFA's recent investigation into the racist Sparta Prague behaviour, but you never know. We might be surprised. Anyway, rant over, back to the game. So Rangers decided that the game just didn't start until about 25 past 12 Paisley time, with the display in the first period of the game, honestly, I think being as bad as I've seen us under Steven Gerrard. I can't think of a time when we were worse. I really can't. Maybe the Hearts Cup tie last season. I'm not sure. But some players were just posted absolutely missing, and we were just off all over the pitch. They then score from a passage of play that includes two, maybe 3 mistakes, just from an inability to control the ball. Firstly, Stephen Davis mishits a pass to James Tavernier, who then makes an absolute mess of his pass to John Lundstrom, who then looks kind of silly trying to regain his balance and composure to catch up with the St Mirren fella, who's then basically allowed to stroll into position and admittedly hit a superb shot past John McLaughlin from way outside the box. Credit where it's due, it was a brilliant shot. And, but that said, upon reflection, other than that, and within that period of play, within the first 20, 25 minutes, and there was the odd ball across the box, but we weren't in any real danger of going any further behind. It was just awful play. We couldn't control the ball. We couldn't find a pass. We couldn't get ourselves into position. It was actually weird, to be really honest. So, but other than that, we weren't really in any danger, as I said, of going any further behind. And it didn't feel like that, of course, in the moment. But once we got ourselves into the game, it was a very, very comfortable victory, I thought. Once, Roof had dispatched his penalty and Alfie got his 100th. So the team grew into the game very well, and all in all, it was pretty comfortable with a lot of positives to take from it. The only kind of negative, apart from the first 25 minutes, would be the fact that we still just don't seem to be able to find that killer third goal and just make it a lot more comfortable towards the end. But as I say, I don't watch the games back, as I've mentioned before, but my recollection of the game is pretty vivid, and there was no real danger or no real heart palpitation moments either. This week we have 2 games, and listen to this, both are in the league. Yeah, you heard it right. 2 league games this week, starting with our home match against Aberdeen this coming Wednesday, October the 27th, with a 2:45pm Eastern Standard Time kickoff, and that's 7:45pm UK time. Aberdeen haven't had a terrific start under Stephen Glass, but they did win their last game after losing. Actually, the stat that I seen, they'd lost their previous 5. It might have been longer than that, but there was only 6 games on the wee counter thing on Sky Sports to show the league table. So they might have lost more, but certainly lost 5 in a row until the victory on the weekend. But either way, we do always get a tough game against Aberdeen, and I do have the feeling that this could be a game that could be tough for us, but also a game where our strikers really get into having a purple patch in front of goals and we batter in a few. I think it's going to be tough. I think it's going to be competitive, but I think we're going to rip them apart, and I really, really hope I'm right. And just a wee quickie for longer term listeners, you might remember that for the game segment I used to do the last time we played them at Ibrox, or the last time we played them away from home segment, to provide some historical reference and context as to how things have developed over the course of the season. I've not been doing that this season yet, as I don't think there's much value add in talking about what happened last season. But now that we are moving out of the first round of games, I'll have stats and data for that period to use as we move forward, and you'll hear a wee bit more of that sort of stuff on future pods. Starting with our very next game after the Aberdeen game, which is away to Motherwell this coming Sunday, October the 31st, Halloween, with another early kick-off time, and that's 7am Eastern Standard Time, the same as it was against St Mirren on the weekend there. 7am Eastern Standard Time this coming Sunday. That's a noon kick-off back home. Ouch, I don't like these early games. 2 Sundays in a row with earlier kick-off times just kind of materially impacts the weekend a wee bit. However, we do have more respectable kick-off times in November, early part of November for sure anyway, so that's something we can all look forward to. The last time we played Motherwell was, of course, at Ibrox on the delayed Flag Day celebration day in mid-September, when we were all really hoping for a big party day, and all we managed was a 1-1 draw in a game that at the time I recall describing as Jekyll and Hyde, where we were absolutely dominant for the first 50 to 60 minutes and then just completely fell away. Sounds kind of familiar to some of our recent form, but as I mentioned earlier, the bad sections are getting a wee bit less and the good sections are getting a wee bit more, and the indifferent stuff isn't materially impacting us, so long may that continue. So we do owe them one. That's Motherwell, of course, and I can't think of a better time to show them who's boss than on the 17th anniversary of me immigrating to Canada, which is what Sunday is. So I'm sure the team will do what needs to be done to mark this momentous and historic occasion. On to RTV. We didn't have any reported issues on the quality of the feed or anything similar to that that would disrupt any of our clubs or individual viewers' viewing pleasure, so that's great news. If we did, I didn't hear about it. And the RTV survey, we have gone through our first pass analysis of the responses that we received and are now in the process of dissecting the information we have a wee bit further. Excuse me, so that we can get around the table with RTV to negotiate the full season cost structure and then get back to all clubs with confirmation of what their game fees are going to be for this season. We are working closely with Alan McWatt, our broadcast director, and Alec Grant, our treasurer, of course, on this to ensure a more holistic and cross-functional approach for the survey for this time, now that we can enjoy the benefits of our new functional NARSA executive structure and have everyone play a role in that as appropriate. So I don't think from a club perspective you'll hear from us this week. I can't see it moving as quickly as that, but maybe we'll get through the next phase quicker than I anticipate. I doubt it, but you never know. But it's more likely going to be an early to mid-November time where we'll get around to getting that finalised. Shoutouts. For shoutouts, we got a message on Twitter from @ADJers letting us know that his supporters club, the Maiden City Rangers Supporters Club in Londonderry, Northern Ireland, just celebrated their 60th anniversary and held a big party on the weekend in their local Memorial Hall to celebrate this fantastic milestone. I know that Adi and one other member from Maiden City are joining us in Las Vegas in June for our 2022 convention celebrations, and I am very much looking forward to having a celebratory beer with the lads. That's an incredible milestone to achieve for any organisation anywhere. So congratulations to everyone involved. And by absolute fluke, I was on Facebook yesterday. I don't go on Facebook that much, and when I went on one of the Rangers forums that I'm subscribed to or like or follow or whatever the Facebook thing is for that is called, it had a link to a video from some of the festivities from the weekend, and the video that I saw was a bunch of very dapperly dressed chaps there with their Rangers Supporters Club flag in front of the live band who were on stage behind and above them singing their heart out, and it was just singing their hearts out, I should say, and it was just absolutely brilliant to see, and a wee reminder for me anyway of the fun community and joy and camaraderie that we all get following and supporting our great club. So happy diamond anniversary to Adi Gers and all of his brothers and sisters over at the club there, and I hope to be in a position to congratulate you on the platinum anniversary a decade from now. Just brilliant, great news. A quick update on the Carey Clan's holiday back home to Paisley. They managed 2 wins and a draw on their visit, and at the time of recording, I still don't know. Right now it's 6:57 p.m. I still don't know what they brought me back in terms of chocolate and crisps. I do know they're back and they're just round the corner, probably just convalescing, getting some washing done, laundry as we call it over here in these parts. And I only received the one FaceTime call this past week. Well, it was 3 calls, but just in the one night, as they were singing up a storm on the karaoke somewhere in Paisley. So they're back here. So that means Andy's back full time on the social media stuff, and I'll get my chocolate and my new anniversary shirt hopefully sometime here in the next couple of days. And also I did want to mention some events planned for a couple of our member clubs here. A quick reminder that I've been mentioning over the last wee while. Toronto Number 1 have their 2 for the show coming up here. I guess that's a week on Saturday, the 6th of November at 7 p.m. $15 per person. If you need any information about that, reach out to me directly or contact Norma Maxwell on Facebook and she will be able to steer you right. And here's a good one for you. I just wanted to get this one a wee bit early and happily mention that for this year, after a 1-year enforced hiatus, the Rangers Supporters Club of Calgary is once again hosting our British New Year Bash on Friday, December the 31st at the Palomino Smokehouse in downtown Calgary. We have hosted a New Year Bash every single year since I moved here in 2004. And we were gutted to miss it for last year. We had all the plans in place and some of the food was already ordered to get us going, but the restrictions just made it impossible to be able to host it, and hopefully God willing, that nothing will happen between now and 8 or 9 weeks from now to get us going. So we'll kick off around about 3 o'clock in the afternoon here, Calgary time, and ring the bells in at 5 p.m. And then after that, we'll have our usual Scottish fare of Scotch pies and other equally healthy foods to soak up some of the beer or other alcoholic sensations that you consume. So if you're in or around Calgary or the Calgary area on December the 31st, please come down, see us, grab a drink and a bit of a catch up. It's been way too long that we've all had a chance to see each other face to face. And yes, I will be mentioning this every single week for the next 8 episodes, so stay tuned for more information on that. For our convention update for this week, we do continue our progress with the Las Vegas Loyal Organising Committee for the advertising and being able to book the excursions that they will be hosting during the week of the event. We have created the website shell for this, and I'm hopeful that we'll be able to share the details for this week. I hope this week on our regular communication channels. So I know I did say that last week, and it's not me being overly optimistic, I don't think. It's just things take a wee bit longer, and when we're dealing with people in different states and different time zones and stuff like that, we just struggle a wee bit to make sure that everything all connects together sometimes. And we also continue the planning for our commemorative magazine for the convention as well, with further investigations on layout options, paper quality, shipping costs per advert and things like that. So the team are making great strides on this one, which is great to see, and all being well, we'll be in a position to get going on this one a wee bit sooner than normal, and hopefully this side of the new year as well. On the travel front, we are also in the process of creating the website page shell on the NARSA site for this important area too, and are updating the imagery and copy on there to get going on all the travel information that you'll need. So all being well, again, I'm hopeful that we'll be able to formally launch that this week as well. I'd like to think we can also extend this area. We haven't got one for our partnership with 5 Stars and the other folks that we like to advertise as well. So I'd like to think that we can also extend this page to our other partnerships as well. So we are getting there with a lot of work going on in the background, and it is closer than ever to getting things out there into the public domain, I promise. And we also had a really good introductory conversation with one of the potential hotel locations for NARSA 2023 this past week, and that conversation went very, very well as well. It was good to get on the call with the person over there and just kind of give a bit of a feel and flavour for who we are and what we need. And as I'd mentioned on a previous pod or two, with the World Cup next year extending the next season slightly, we've had to push the dates out for this one a wee bit. So it's going to be around the middle of June 2023, which is a bit of a stroke of luck, as this particular time for Toronto is absolutely jam-packed, so we probably would have really struggled to get our original time frame of the first weekend in June anyway. In my history with NARSA, I've typically signed the contract around the November-December time frame, so all being well, we'll be in good shape to either meet or beat that time frame this year. We're getting going on the discussions anyway, and getting to that particular spot of the signing of the contract with the hotel is always a major milestone and something to be celebrated when we get there. So that's something I'm very much looking forward to over the coming month or so. Another regular plug for our frequently asked questions document that is on our website. Go there, check it out. Any questions you have, I'm sure, will be answered there. Some things I wanted to mention on the communication front this past week, starting with an update on last Saturday evening's Rangers Charity Foundation Charity Ball. We had a good friend and supporter of NARSA, Richard Martin, in attendance, and he performed the role of being roving reporter to give me a little bit of an update this morning as to how it went. And he did tell me that the event was a tremendous success. The ball was attended by around 400 guests, and they managed to raise an amazing £94,000 at the event, which is utterly outstanding, actually, given the world situation that we find ourselves in, and the fact that they managed to get the event going ahead. At the event, the Charity Foundation also took the opportunity to raise funds to coincide with the club's 150th anniversary, which you might have seen on the website article this past week, where it says To commemorate the monumental 150th anniversary of Rangers Football Club, the Rangers Charity Foundation is launching a special 150 anniversary appeal to help build the future of the foundation. Created by the club in 2002, the Rangers Charity Foundation exists to be a force for good on behalf of the Rangers family, showing compassion to those in need, tackling inequalities and creating opportunities for people of all ages to change their lives for the better. With a target of £150,000 by the end of the season, by donating to this legacy appeal, you will help fund the following projects: a new 3-year disability football programme, an expansion of hub in the community schools model, Ibrox Community Hub renovations, and Dream Fund stuff as well. So there's a lot more contained within the article on the website, and I would encourage you to go take a peek at the wonderful work everyone at the Charity Foundation is doing there. And of course, we will have the Charity Foundation present at NARSA 2022 with Karen Watson conjuring up some great ideas for fundraising as I speak, and hopefully we'll get an opportunity to communicate that prior to the new year as well. I will put the link to the article in the blurb for tonight's pod, and as I say, go check that out, well worth a read. And there's also an amazing article on the Rangers website discussing the first ever black player to sign for the club, a fellow by the name of Walter Tull. And the article details his posthumous induction into the National Football Museum English Football Hall of Fame. Bit of a mouthful, that one, but it's basically a summary story on who Walter was, what he achieved in the game, and his life in the army, which contributed to an astounding legacy in the game. I don't mind admitting that it was quite an emotional article to read, and if you haven't checked it out, please do so. Admittedly, a vast knowledge of Rangers history is not a forte of mine at all, not even close, and it's something I've lamented for quite some time. And my promise to myself is that when I'm done and dusted with NARSA and I've handed the keys over to the next generation of custodians, that my retirement, my replacement for NARSA activities, if I could say that, away from serving the membership, will be filled with some form of historical research and study into Rangers Football Club, because I'm fairly sure I'll be blown away by our beginnings and our history over the 150 years. I can kind of tread water, but I'm definitely not a historian, and I know that I'm missing out as a result of that. I wouldn't describe it as a bucket list item, because it's something I'm absolutely definitely going to do for myself, and it's not going to be closer to when I kick the bucket. It will be in my youth as I am right now, so that I can better educate myself and Leo and all of his pals, just to spread the word here in North America as to quite how significant our great club is in terms of history in world football. So I'll post the link to that article as well, and it's a really, really good read. I would honestly encourage you to go and read that. Another quick update on the Scottish Football Hall of Fame nomination that we've been spearheading for friend of NARSA and 2019 MC Andy Gray, and I've talked about this for the past week. Well, we did receive a response later last week from the Scottish Football Museum last week, indicating that there was indeed going to be no Hall of Fame induction this year, and that it's too early to say whether there will actually be one in 2022, but just to keep in touch with them once the invitation for nominations is sent out next year, hopefully next year, and check to make sure Andy is still on the list. They said you don't have to, we already have it, but it might not be the worst idea to just check in and make sure it didn't slip off someone's desktop on their computer. So on this occasion, I can't really complain that the event isn't going ahead with the worldwide pandemic that we still are living in. But as I think I mentioned last week, I would have just had the nomination process followed in absentia for the successful candidates this year, and then had them join the 2022 inductees in a joint ceremony to be held at some point next year, if indeed it does go ahead next year. But that's me just thinking all practically and trying to keep the wheels turning. But as I mentioned before, we are definitely not letting this one lie. Andy deserves it, and we will make sure this comes to a conclusion one way or the other. So you won't hear about this for the next wee while, I wouldn't say. Almost finally on the comms front for this week, Rangers announced yet another partnership with an organisation called Sportimon Go. And the reason I mentioned this specific partnership, I haven't mentioned a lot of them because because there's tons of them that are out there and I wouldn't have time every week. But this specific partnership is quite poignant because it's a top tier official partnership status that has been secured, and you'll likely notice Sporting On Go's logo on the base of the rear of our first team jerseys going forward, and it's also our first kind of widespread foray into the non-fungible token market. The article on the website says Rangers are pleased to announce an exciting new official partnership with Sporting On Go. The 2-year agreement will see Sporting On Go, SGO, become a top-tier official club partner with back-of-the-shirt sponsor branding, digital non-fungible token, collectibles and a significant commercial investment into Rangers. Rangers commercial and marketing director James Bisgrove commented, "This is another exciting commercial partnership for Rangers and one that aligns closely with our digital transformation strategy and ambitions in the emerging NFT space, which represents a compelling new revenue stream for the sports industry." So this is most definitely a way of the future for us, and the way for supporters to obtain one-of-a-kind Rangers memorabilia, which will contribute to, as James says, revenue streams for the club, but will also provide amazing products for the fans to add to their memorabilia collection. I won't pretend to know much more than I've explained here, but it is an exciting partnership for the club, and the NFT market is something that I think we'll hear a lot more about as we move forward, so stay tuned for that. But another significant strategic step forward for us in terms of digital transformation for the club. And finally, on the comms front for this week, I wanted to provide a quick update on our Heart and Hand, the Rangers podcast annual subscription competition that I've been talking about over the last couple of weeks. We seem as a wee group to be a wee bit stuck on the question, which is a bit of a theme for us. I think we've come across this bridge before. So the main thing that we want to do is not just give stuff away with a kind of lame, crappy question that everyone knows. We want the Bears to work for and then deserve the win when it comes. But that comes with us having to make sure that we get the right question, and then that we absolutely know the answer spot on, because if we don't, it's a 100% guarantee that we'll be reminded of this in no uncertain terms by diligent listeners and or participants in the competition. So where it's at right now is that we have the question and we are just fact checking the answer to make sure that we are tight. Then we'll get it announced, and then, as I mentioned last week, that we're going to do this competition on the website. It's going to be a wee bit easier for us to collate information, and it's going to be less obvious for people who just want to copy other people's answers. So see the amount of work that goes into stuff like this. As I mentioned last week, we are trying to make things a wee bit more, what would you say, participatory, and just come up with different ways to have people engage with us and for us to be able to engage with them, and that's what we're going to do via the website, as I mentioned there just a wee bit ago. So we're just finalising the question, and then we will get it out to everyone hopefully this week. It's not as easy as it looks, all this sort of stuff. Anywho, that will do it for this week, my friends. As always, I cannot thank you enough for taking the time to listen, and please do share it with anyone that you think might enjoy it. And until next week, please take care of yourself. At Halloween, here's to 2 very, very important victories in the league this week for our wonderful team, and hopefully extending our lead at the top of the table into the bargain. Until next week, take care of yourself. All the very best. Cheerio.